I just want to preface this video by saying a lot of thought went into making this decision. I've been primarily an iPhone user for most of my life, and switching over to Android full-time was not an easy decision to make. My first ever smartphone was the iPhone 3GS back in 2008. I was 18 years old at the time, and I remember holding the 3GS in my hands and thinking to myself, there is no way this is real. A phone with a touchscreen, an app store, and a 3-megapixel camera with autofocus. At the time, it was just surreal to me. I remember jailbreaking it back in the Cydia days, and I told myself that I was always going to be an iPhone user. Fast forward 8 years, something shifted, something changed. I was introduced into the world of Android, more specifically the first generation Pixel, a phone made by Google, and I fell in love with the Pixel UI experience. It was sort of like an iPhone with the same fluid UI, but with the best cameras in the industry and customization I wasn't used to having on a smartphone, to the point where I could place widgets anywhere I wanted on the screen, where I could customize my apps to match a particular theme, where I could double tap the power button to quick launch the camera, and be able to do so much more on a smartphone. It felt like switching over to Android was the right move at the time. But then just 1 year later, in 2017, Tim Cook walked up on stage and introduced the world to the iPhone X. The iPhone X launch was revolutionary in every single way. It was a smartphone that completely changed the game for Apple. For Apple to completely redesign the iPhone, to remove the home button, shrink the bezels, and update the cameras was enough for me to switch back to an iPhone. And quite honestly, since then, an iPhone has always been in my pocket as my primary go-to device. I didn't just stop at the iPhone X though, I kept going. I bought a 16-inch MacBook Pro, an M1 iPad Pro, an iPad mini, and an Apple Watch. So you could say I was sort of trapped in the Apple ecosystem. You could also say I was a bit of an Apple fanatic. But I've always felt like Apple had sort of gotten stagnant with their phone. They got to a point where they were just so comfortable releasing the same product year after year with minor refinements. With the iPhone, there was little to no innovation, nothing was really changing with the design, the OS was simple and boring, and having looked at the upcoming iPhone 14, nothing about the upcoming changes really excited me. There is really no denying it, Apple had got stagnant to a point where people are getting excited that Apple is re-adding a feature that they initially removed. The battery percentage indicator is coming back, and everyone on Twitter is acting like this is a game-changing update for the iPhone 14, when in reality this is a complete joke of an update. For Apple to just remove a feature and then re-add it is a complete joke. Meanwhile, Samsung is out here making a whole folding phone. So as you guys can tell by the title of this video, I decided it was finally time to switch back over to an Android. But not just any old rectangular slab of glass. You see, this phone is different. This phone is innovation. It's pushing the boundaries of what a smartphone can be, and that, my friends, is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4. A foldable device made by Samsung that is now going to be my primary device, my daily driver from here on out. And we need to talk about what in particular about this phone has compelled me to switch over to Android for good. How's it going, everyone? My name is RJ, and this is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4. If you want to stick around for more Z Fold 4 content, then make sure you do subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. I have a video coming up called A Day in the Life with the Z Fold 4, where I take you guys along with me and use this phone like how I would in an everyday setting. It should be a good video, so make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel. I'll admit that I've been obsessed with the Samsung Z Fold for as long as I can remember. Let me take you back to CES 2013. Samsung releases an ad for a concept foldable smartphone that would forever change my perception on what a smartphone could potentially be. I was obsessed with the concept of a foldable phone. Every now and then I would check on updates, but eventually over time my interest did wane. 6 years later, Samsung finally unveiled the original Z Fold. But being a tech enthusiast, I knew that purchasing first generation tech will always carry a risk. Especially when it is a foldable smartphone, there will always be durability concerns. So I decided to be patient and wait for the Z Fold 2. When I eventually got a chance to extensively test out the Z Fold 2, I did find it disappointing. In fact, I would say to me it was a big letdown. The cover screen was far too narrow to use in a practical manner. The phone was just too bulky and too thick to carry around in my pockets. Many apps weren't optimized for the inner display, and the battery was just abysmal at best. It was honestly such a big letdown, especially for a tech enthusiast such as myself. But I held out hope for the next iteration, the Z Fold 3, which to my surprise also ended up being a big letdown, with the same prominent issues found on the Z Fold 2. At this point, I had lost hope. I came to terms with the fact that the Fold lineup was for a niche group of enthusiasts, and this form factor was never going to be practical enough to go mainstream. But all of that changed with the Z Fold 4. There were a few issues that Samsung absolutely had to nail in order for me to switch over from an iPhone. And with the Z Fold 4, Samsung did just that. Let me explain. With this phone, my initial perception on what a foldable could be came to fruition. Samsung shrunk the bezels on both the cover and the inner display. They brought down the overall weight of the device by 8 grams, all while adding new multitasking features with Android 12L, really taking advantage of the inner 7.6-inch panel. Surprisingly, they even somehow managed to give us stellar battery life thanks to the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chipset. With the Fold 4, I'm getting battery life equivalent to what I was seeing on my iPhone 13 Pro, which to me is really impressive. You may be sitting at home and saying to yourself, okay, but these are not big changes from the Z Fold 3, and you may be right. But these are tiny refinements that add up to make the Z Fold 4 feel like a completely overhauled device while interacting with it. With the Z Fold 4, the issues I had on the Z Fold 2 and the Z Fold 3 are no longer prevalent. You see, with the Fold 4, thanks to the thinner bezels and the reduction in weight, I can use this device with one hand no problem. There is more screen real estate to work with on the cover screen. I can easily handle and type on this outer panel like how I would on a regular smartphone. But with this phone, the only difference being is that I have the option to unfold it and wield a massive 7.6-inch AMOLED panel whenever I like. That, my friends, is innovation. The dual functionality of this phone is what makes this device a true phablet. This right here is what initially made me excited about foldables back in 2013. Yes, the Z Fold 4 is an expensive phone, but the way that I see it is this phone makes other devices like my iPad mini and my iPad Pro expendable. I haven't even touched my iPad ever since I got this device, which has been over 3 weeks now. This 7.6-inch panel is vibrant, it's bright, and it makes content consumption such a captivating experience. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a Samsung-made display, meaning that it is a top-tier panel with really no downsides. Yes, there is a crease in the middle, but when you're looking at this device head-on, the crease is not visible in the least bit. I know I might get flamed for saying this in the comments, but if you ask me, I prefer to have a crease on my phone over a notch any day of the week. The notch is actually intrusive when I am consuming content, whereas the crease really isn't. And for someone like myself who uses a phone for a ton of media consumption, a 7.6-inch panel with a crease is a godsend. The Z Fold 4 uses a very awkward 4:3 aspect ratio, meaning you can't truly utilize this panel to watch content without a good portion of your video getting cropped out. And a lot of apps like Twitter and Instagram are just a blown up version of the original. But Google is making major strides in the app optimization department for tablets. This is evident in apps like TikTok, where you can actually read comments on the right while scrolling through your feed down the middle. There is a ton of potential to utilize all of this screen real estate in an effective manner. And that in particular is what excites me a lot about the future of foldables. If devs can get on board with app optimization, and if Samsung can bring down the price of the Fold series, the potential for mass adoption here is huge. With an iPhone, there is no such thing as multitasking. You have phones like the iPhone 13 Pro Max with, in my opinion, wasted screen real estate. On the Z Fold 4, Samsung took multitasking to another level. You can now open 3 apps at once and productively multitask on the go. My favorite go-to combo is Telegram on the top right to catch up with my friends and families, a YouTube video stretched along the bottom to watch my favorite content creators, and a web page on the top left to surf the web. And if you don't like this layout, you can move it around to your preferred liking. But just having that ability to multitask with 2 or 3 applications open at once just enhances productivity overall and helps me get more done throughout my day. On an iPhone, even on iOS 16, I still can't open 2 apps simultaneously. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but to me that is just ridiculous. If you think about it, Samsung is on their 4th generation of foldables, while Apple can't even figure out how to open 2 apps at once on an iPhone. What I will miss about switching over though is the Apple Watch. There isn't any other smartwatch in the market that can currently compete with this smartwatch, especially in the activity tracking department. With that being said though, there are some pretty good alternatives out there. Like recently a company called Circular Ring reached out to me and they asked me to test out their new Smart Ring. This is essentially an activity monitoring device. It tracks your steps, your heart rate, your oxygenation levels, and it does vibrate, which to me is a big deal. I can just wear this to bed with me at night and wake up in the morning to subtle vibrations on my finger without disturbing my partner. If you want to learn more about the Circular Ring, there's a link in the description below along with a 10% discount code. I did also pick up the Galaxy Watch Pro 5, which should be coming any day now. I haven't used the Galaxy Watch since the 2nd generation with the rotating bezels, so it should be interesting to see how far Samsung has come in the smartwatch department. From here on out, my main SIM card is officially going to be in the Z Fold 4. This is going to be my primary device, and as a content creator on YouTube, making the switch from an iPhone isn't going to be easy. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you are creating content for the internet, an iPhone is the ideal smartphone to start creating content on. I'm not going to miss iMessage, I'm not going to miss FaceTime. Most of my family and friends are on WhatsApp or Telegram anyways, so communication wise I should be fine on the Z Fold 4. But what I am going to miss though is the convenience of AirDrop and the superior video quality of iPhones. Those are 2 things that my Z Fold 4 will be lacking in comparison. The sheer convenience of being able to record an entire YouTube video on my iPhone and AirDrop it to my MacBook without losing quality in the transfer is going to be hard to replace. Yes, I do understand with Android there is QuickShare, the AirDrop equivalent, but I edit all of my videos on a MacBook and there is no way I'm going to be switching to a Windows laptop anytime soon. So the convenience of AirDropping pictures and video clips from my iPhone to my MacBook is something that I am going to miss. Not to mention, video quality on the Fold 4 is good, but it's not great. You aren't getting iPhone 13 Pro video quality with this phone. However, I did recently buy the Sony ZV-1, and this is a great portable mini camera that I can take around with me anywhere I go. And the video quality coming out of this camera is much better than what I get on my iPhone 13 Pro. So armed with the Sony ZV-1, I will get by as a content creator. There are also apps I use on a consistent basis like Lightroom made available for the Z Fold 4, so editing pictures on the inner display using the S Pen should be a fun and interactive experience. Making the permanent switch over to Android is not going to be easy in regards to my workflow, but I do feel like it's time, especially since the iPhone 14 Pro doesn't look like it's going to be anything special. Of course, as a content creator here on YouTube, I'll still be covering iPhones here on my channel. The only thing that's going to be different is instead of carrying around an iPhone all the time in my pockets, I'm going to be carrying around a whole folding phone in my pockets. I'll conclude this video by saying this. If you're thinking about making the switch over to an Android because you feel the same way as I do about iPhones, then make the switch, because Samsung has come a long way since their TouchWiz days. One UI in my experience has been just as smooth and fluid as iOS. In terms of performance, you will not notice a difference. If you're not a content creator of any kind, then switching over to the quote-unquote dark side should be pretty easy to do. In an era where Apple got stagnant, Samsung saw an opportunity to innovate. Ultimately, they came up with the Flip and the Fold series. Yes, the Fold 4 is an expensive smartphone, and a month's rent isn't affordable for many people. But with these amazing trading deals, and as the tech to build these devices does become more and more affordable, this is a step in the right direction. Make sure you guys do check out my Z Fold 4 review. I will link it for you guys in the description below. If you made it to the end of this video, drop a dolphin emoji down in the comments below so I know exactly who you guys are. As always, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to switch over to foldable tech, because this, my friends, is the future.